Hey y'all, the Paranormal Chick here. Welcome to episode 7 of my podcast. Today I'm going to share 2 witness accounts to encounters with unidentified creatures. It could be Bigfoots, it could be something else. You'll have to decide for yourself. The first encounter is from a logger out of northern Michigan. He and his crew were called in to clear a site deep in the woods, and this accounting is directly from him. For some reason, all the previous crews kept quitting and wouldn't finish the job, he said. Weird things started happening the first day we were on site. It started out small, with small rocks being thrown at us. I told my guys to ignore it and focus on the job. The second day was bigger rocks, and honest to God, boulders no humans can pick up and chuck. One had almost hit me. Then we started seeing flashes of something moving fast in the woods surrounding us. We heard loud banging, like something was whacking trees, and the yells, and then the growling and whooping. We could never get a good glimpse of it. It was something dark and big. My crew almost quit right then and there. On the third day, some of my guys were clearing out some brush so we can push our way into the area that needed clearing. What they showed me, I still can't wrap my head around it. It was multiple piles of dens made from branches and vegetation. It was matted down like a bear den, but massive. And get this, the branches were twined together. I don't know of any animal that twines branches together to make a pallet. I can tell you right now, we were getting spooked. This wasn't normal, and we didn't know what we were dealing with. And my guys wanted nothing to do with it. Because it was a big finding, I had to call it into my supervisor. We backed away from the area and I had my guys get back to work on the other side of the clearing. The next day, the 4th day, we didn't even make it a full day. Some government guys showed up with a company supervisor. They said we were on government protected land now and we had to cease all work and leave. Believe me when I say, we didn't even argue. My guys and I just picked up our stuff and left. There's something in those woods, and it's more than one creature. Was it Bigfoot? I don't know, but there's something there. That's from the logger. Now it'll be up to you to decide if he's telling a fairy tale or if he and his crew really saw something out in those woods. They were being hit by rocks. Not only that, the whooping, and he said it sounded like they were being surrounded by these animals. And the whacks against the tree. I wonder if they came up on an actual home site of these creatures, and that's why they had such an adverse reaction to them, and that's why they scared off all the other crews and they could never get that area cleared out. But it's interesting that the government shows up and automatically protects that land. That right there is key. There's something there, something that they wanted to hide and keep now the public away from it. Let me know what you think about that one. The next witness encounter. This happened in Grand Teton National Park. And this is going to be from the witness herself. I was attacked by a strange creature in Grand Teton National Park. My boyfriend at the time, now my husband, let's call him B, was an avid outdoorsman and also served in the military. For those who aren't familiar, the Grand Tetons are well known for their wildlife, specifically grizzly bears. My only experience with bears up to this point was watching a little black bear cross the road from the safety of my car. Seeing grizzly country signs around every corner wasn't doing much to calm my nerves. My boyfriend literally looked like Indiana Jones, machete hanging from his belt, large knives attached to each side of his pack, bear spray strapped to his waist. You get the picture. The beginning of our 25-mile journey was all uphill. When in bear country, you're supposed to make noises to not startle the wildlife by accidentally sneaking up on it. As you can imagine, going up a steep hill while carrying a 40-pound pack makes it difficult to make conversation, much less make noises. We were an hour in and almost at the top of the descent. I noticed that the woods had gone completely silent, save for the rushing stream that was to our left on the trail. Silent woods are never a good sign. This usually indicates predators are nearby. At this point, I was in front of my boyfriend, and we were about to crest the hill. For the past 20 minutes, we had not said a word to each other. Having been too tired to speak, we noticed the silence at the same time and gave each other knowing glances. I came up over the hill and immediately froze. Sitting not 10 feet in front of me, in the middle of the trail, was a grizzly bear. My husband wasn't aware yet, as he was behind me, so I did the first thing I could think of. While still in my frozen stance, I managed to take my arm and start flinging it wildly behind me, trying to get B's attention. I was just too terrified to say anything, to yell. The bear went from sitting to all fours, not looking away from us. B quickly swung me around so that I was behind him, and he just started yelling. Being in the military, he knows how to yell. The grizzly wasn't fazed, and it started to walk slowly towards us. At this point, I was on the verge of passing out from terror. The bear was about 5 feet in front of us when we heard a loud crack coming from the woods to our right. The bear heard it too. And he bolted. He bolted towards the stream. A second crack boomed again, this time much closer than before. B said it was probably just some falling branches, but we knew that wasn't the case. At this point, we were walking quickly up the trail in an attempt to create some distance from the grizzly and the strange noises. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand straight up, and at that same moment, B stopped moving in front of me. He turned around to look at me, and I turned to look behind me. To this day, we are not sure what we saw. Back where we were standing was a large, black-brown mass. It looked to be 3 times bigger than the already large grizzly that we had just seen a few moments before. Its back was facing us, then it stood on its back legs. It looked similar to a bear, but something about the shape was just off. It was probably stupid, to run away, but that's exactly what we did. We were aware of heavy footsteps behind us, but neither of us looked back. The footsteps eventually faded, and at this point I was a mess. I wanted to go home. I was a mess. B was doing his best to console me. He said, "Honey, this is extremely unusual. Bears usually stay away from humans. We are going to be okay. I'm sure that won't happen again." It took him a while, but he managed to convince me to continue on the backpacking. Within another hour, we reached a clearing. We decided to take a rest and eat a snack. About a minute after we had sat down, I noticed bushes moving in a line toward the clearing toward us. Out of the brush comes this adolescent grizzly who looks just as spooked as I'm sure we did. But he came straight for us. B, being the crazy nut that he is, decided to charge back at the bear while screaming, "Bear spray at ready." It actually did the trick and the bear ran off. All I could just keep thinking was this was my luck. But that wasn't even close to what happened the second night. Before we began our backpacking second day, we had to let the ranger station know which trail routes we planned to take. With this information, they usually send a ranger on horseback at some point during the backpacking to check on you to make sure everything is okay. There were not many approved trails left for us to choose from, and it was just our luck. What was left was the most difficult. Apparently, over the 3 days we were on those trails, we had been the sole hikers. We didn't see a single person once we were en route. Anyhow, I guess we missed the ranger who came to check on us. We had been following hoof prints the entire second day, and we hadn't seen any of them the day before. I had some foot problems, so we spent valuable daylight trying to adjust my bootlaces and socks to compensate for the pain. B wasn't happy. When we started on the trail again, we had maybe an hour or two of daylight left, and in the woods, it gets dark fast. I was exhausted. It was now dark out, and B was the only one with a working headlamp, as mine wouldn't even turn on. Again, just my luck. We needed to find somewhere to set up camp, and we still needed to eat. It was freezing and the wind was blowing. It was creating this howling sound as it rushed through the trees, which made it difficult to hear B or discern any sounds coming from the woods. Another hour of hiking through the dark, we found a clearing. Well, it was more like a bowl. It looked to be approximately 200 meters in diameter, but the sides being approximately 10 meters down from the trail to the bottom of the clearing. The place was strange. We both felt it. He didn't tell me how freaked out he was until after we had left that place. There was no moonlight that night, so all we had was the illumination from his headlamp, our small camp stove, and the flashlight that I pulled out of my backpack. Half of the trees were dead, fallen just in the bowl. The vegetation everywhere was very dense. And to help alleviate my anxiousness, he started playing relaxing music out of his portable speaker. It didn't help. All it did was echo off the trees, creating a dissonance of sounds. He also thought it would ward off any predators nearby. This is when we knew our anxiousness wasn't paranorma. The silence was back. There hadn't been a single bird chirp since we arrived at the clearing. It also may have had to do with the obnoxious music. But because of our previous experience, we decided to turn off the music and head into the tent. Again, it was freezing. So as soon as we were situated in our sleeping bags, we heard deep cracks and thuds echoing from beyond the tree line, falling trees. That's what we thought. There had been a lot of wildfires and very little rain this season. But then we heard this loud thud. We both froze. That sound wasn't an echo. It came from inside the clearing, and definitely not a falling tree. Then we heard a loud thud again, but this time it was right outside of our tent. We literally both stopped breathing. B's hand found mine, and we clung to each other, paralyzed with fear. Something dragged across the outside of our tent, making an indent as it went along. It was thin, almost like a finger. I remember whispering, "What is it?" B responded with, "I don't know. It shouldn't be a person. We are the only ones on this side of the mountain." I was trying my hardest to stifle sobs, and still trying to listen to what was outside. I could hear steps, but I couldn't decipher what it was. The steps stopped, and then the whole side of the tent was slowly pushed inwards. At this point, whatever was outside knew we were inside, so I shined my flashlight at the side of the tent. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was the shape of a human face pressed into the tent wall. I could make out the nose and an open mouth, and each time it breathed, it made the tent move around its mouth. It billowed in and out. B immediately pulled his Glock from his sleeping bag. He cocked it, and the sound shattered the silence. The face pulled back, and we heard fast footsteps heading towards the edge of the clearing. We didn't leave the tent till the sun was shining. The next morning, the first thing we noticed was the smell of urine. We came out of the tent and looked around. Whoever it was had peed on our coals we had left in the fire. It left a disgusting stench of evaporated pee. Footprints surrounded our tent, circling around multiple times. Muddy handprints decorated the outside of our tent. Well, we think it was mud anyways. We left that morning. We turned around and just went back. We haven't been back to Grand Teton since. There's something out there, and it's bigger than a bear. So those are the two stories I have for you tonight. Their experience in Grand Teton is... I have questions, more so than... it's crazy. I don't know what I would do in that situation. But that unidentified creature, it could have easily torn through that tent. It could have easily chased them down in the first encounter. Easily. But it didn't. And that's why I always ask myself, when people have encounters with these creatures, it scares them. It wants them out of their area, but it never truly attacks that we know of. Is it just trying to make itself known that you're in its territory and it wants you out? You're not respecting the boundaries that we're just not aware of. I don't know. You'll have to tell me. But as always, that's all I have for you tonight. I will be back tomorrow for episode 8 with some more stories. I want to hear your response, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let me know. And if you have your own experiences, your own stories that you want to share, you can remain anonymous. Please send them to me. Your stories, or if you have video evidence, I would love to see it and I would love to post it. I will post this full episode on my YouTube channel, which you can follow me there, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Paranormal Chick. And if you want to send me anything, please send it to theparanormalchick, CHIC, @gmail.com. Otherwise, until tomorrow, my friends, stay safe.